Now, the scenario that's being put forward is that he being Epstein, was going to sue Fergie, and she was trying to avoid that.
Whispers from Windsor describe a night few expected.
Ex-wife Sarah, Duchess of York, will also lose her title and will be known as Sarah Ferguson.
No formal announcement, no farewell photograph on the palace steps. Just scattered whispers, nervous glances, and a silence so calculated it almost screamed for attention. What exactly unfolded during Sarah Ferguson's final hours at Royal Lodge? And if everything was perfectly ordinary, why did her departure reportedly happen with the secrecy of a political evacuation rather than a simple house move? Because according to royal insiders, Sarah Ferguson's exit was not merely discreet. It felt like somebody quietly erasing an entire chapter of royal history in real time. And that is where this story becomes deeply unsettling. While Prince Andrew, still carrying years of controversy like storm clouds over Windsor, continued appearing in public almost casually, strolling through the estate grounds, nodding at passers-by, even offering the occasional wave, Sarah seemed to vanish almost overnight. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Andrew stayed visible, stubbornly present, as though refusing to acknowledge reality. Sarah faded into the background so completely, it was as if the palace wanted the world to stop noticing her altogether. Behind closed doors, insiders claim this was far more than an awkward transition. It was a rapid dismantling. Royal Lodge, the sprawling 30-room mansion long associated with Andrew's royal identity, suddenly ceased to be a refuge. The message coming from palace circles appeared brutally simple. Whatever protection once existed had reached its limit. And Sarah, unlike Andrew, had no official royal role, no guaranteed residence, no secure landing place waiting for her. That left her trapped in a deeply uncomfortable position, standing in the wreckage of a scandal that simply refuses to disappear no matter how many years pass. At the same time, King Charles reportedly faced mounting pressure over a question the public has repeatedly asked for years. If investigators requested cooperation regarding Andrew, would the palace comply? His reported response was measured but revealing. Yes, cooperation would happen. And even that carefully worded stance carried enormous significance because it suggested something larger. The monarchy could no longer risk appearing protective or defensive. Not after everything that had already happened. But perhaps the strangest part of the entire episode was the way Sarah allegedly prepared for the inevitable, long before the final decision arrived. Reports cited by the Daily Mail claimed she had quietly begun bracing herself for the possibility of losing Royal Lodge weeks in advance. Yet, rather than openly packing belongings or making a dignified public exit the way royals traditionally attempt to manage scandals, Sarah reportedly moved almost like someone avoiding detection. According to insiders, she slipped in and out of the property discreetly, steering clear of photographers, staff members, and virtually anyone who might transform her movements into tabloid headlines. And one allegation in particular left royal watchers stunned. A source reportedly claimed Sarah was transported in vehicles while lying flat across the back seat, simply to avoid being seen entering or leaving the estate. Not walking confidently through the front gates, not issuing statements, hiding. For a woman once celebrated as Fergie, loud, charismatic, endlessly talkative, and rarely camera shy, the image feels almost tragic. It paints the picture of somebody who understood all too well that the royal establishment had stopped protecting her. Then came the development that reportedly intensified palace anxiety even further. Fresh Epstein-related documents resurfaced, dragging old associations back into public discussion. Although most scrutiny has consistently centred on Andrew, renewed media attention inevitably pulled Sarah's past connections back into view as well. And inside royal circles, perception matters almost more than proof. Sometimes association alone becomes toxic enough. Once headlines begin linking names together again, the palace machine tends to react the same way it always has, quietly, Swiftly, completely. Doors close, access disappears, silence takes over. That appears to be exactly what happened here. Now, Sarah Ferguson reportedly exists in an awkward state of limbo. Andrew still occasionally appears around Windsor as though clinging to remnants of normality, while Sarah has seemingly been pushed entirely out of sight, stripped not only of comfort but of visibility itself. And perhaps the most disturbing aspect is not that Royal Lodge became unavailable. It is the manner in which it happened, coldly, quietly, almost surgically, like a royal chapter being sealed shut without warning. But the deeper panic reportedly began when newly surfaced correspondence allegedly mentioned Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie in ways that rattled senior royals behind palace walls. Because once daughters become part of the conversation, the crisis suddenly expands beyond Andrew alone. According to insiders, those references landed inside the palace like alarm bells ringing through empty corridors. The issue was no longer viewed as isolated. It was beginning to touch the next generation of the York family, and that made the situation dramatically more dangerous from an institutional perspective. Meanwhile, tensions inside Windsor had reportedly already been escalating. Sources suggested King Charles had grown increasingly uneasy, watching Andrew continue moving around royal grounds publicly, as though nothing significant had changed. To outsiders, it looked stubborn. To palace officials, it reportedly looked risky. A reputational hazard unfolding in plain sight. And the timing could hardly have been worse. The monarchy was already dealing with uncomfortable political scrutiny elsewhere, while renewed discussions surrounding Andrew's past activities as trade envoy brought old questions back into circulation once again. Even without explosive new evidence, the conversation itself was enough to spark concern. Because in royal life, public belief often matters more than legal certainty. That reportedly explains why events suddenly accelerated with surprising speed. Claims emerged that urgent conversations took place between King Charles and Prince William at Sandringham shortly before the move. And Sandringham matters. It is not where casual chats happen over tea and biscuits. It is where difficult decisions are considered carefully, away from public eyes, inside rooms soaked in royal authority. If reports are accurate, the family believed they were rapidly losing control of the situation. Soon after, Andrew and Sarah were allegedly instructed to leave Royal Lodge earlier than expected. Not gradually, not ceremonially, quickly. One report even described Andrew being forced to vacate around midnight before finishing the packing process entirely. If true, that transforms the situation from a planned relocation into something that feels far harsher. A removal. A final cut designed to prevent delays, negotiations, or dramatic public resistance. And if Andrew's departure felt chaotic, Sarah's reportedly looked equally grim. Staff allegedly faced scenes resembling the aftermath of abandonment. Furniture covered in dust sheets, packing crates scattered across rooms, empty walls marked by pale outlines where artwork once hung. Not a graceful royal transition, a hurried retreat, a house stripped down in panic. Some observers still insist Andrew has been treated unfairly and argue others surrounding him committed no crimes. But palace insiders reportedly no longer viewed fairness as the central issue. The focus had shifted towards survival, reputation, containment, especially once Beatrice and Eugenie's names became entangled in renewed discussions. Because once daughters are drawn into scandal, once midnight departures begin happening behind palace gates, the mood changes entirely. Embarrassment becomes fear, and slowly Royal Lodge transformed from a symbol of privilege into something far sadder.